Now, timeline therapy techniques are based on the idea that we all have a timeline, which is a mental map that helps us understand the events in our lives and how they relate to each other. The way that we use this timeline is very important, and it can help us organize our memories in a way that makes sense. In timeline therapy, we work with the client's timeline to help them make rational, painful memories, to improve their ability to remember details, and generally organize their memories so they are more supportive. Now, the second basic premise of timeline therapy is this. Timeline therapy uses a process of active imagination. And what this means is the client in timeline therapy actively imagines what you are suggesting. Now, active imagination is used in Gestalt therapy. And whatever the client imagines is always correct. That's very important. Whatever the client imagines is always correct. Please just make a note of that. So your conscious mind and your unconscious mind work in two different methods. We're going to learn more about that later on. And whatever your client imagines is always correct. Now, when a client says to you in timeline therapy, the words, "I can't," what this means is, I can't means I can do the process of not. It also means that this person is not following your instructions. And if you just follow the instructions in timeline therapy, you'll succeed immediately. So, coaches, remember, whatever the client says is always correct. Whatever that picture comes to their mind is always correct. Now, the purpose of timeline therapy is to work consciously with the unconscious mind. When we work consciously with the unconscious mind, it causes conscious and unconscious integration. And what this means is, it means both your conscious and unconscious minds are working together. They're working at the same time. And this is what makes this process different to everything else. When you combine both your conscious mind and your unconscious mind and they work together, you form a superconscious mind. And you can access all the memories, everything you've seen, everything you've heard, everything you've felt, everything you've smelt, everything you've tasted, everything that you've ever said to yourself. And you get access to your full memory. And that happens automatically as we use timeline therapy techniques. Now, when we're working with timeline therapy techniques, we start to bypass our critical faculty. Now, the critical faculty is the part of you that cares to distinguish between reality and fantasy. Now, when we go and see a movie, what we do is we start to fantasize. Is that correct? When you watch Superman, when you watch X-Men, you start to fantasize. And you say, what if Wolverine had these long spikes coming out of his hands? You play the game, don't you? You say, what if he was actually doing that? And you start to enjoy the fantasy. Now, when we use both our conscious and unconscious mind together, we actually move past that critical faculty. And what we start to do is we start to access our full imagination. And that's very important as we do the process of timeline therapy.